Hi, I'm Brian Gallagher, and today I'm going to read you a scene from my new book, Resistance. This is what the book looked like, and I got the idea for this story a couple of years ago when I discovered that the Nazis during the Second World War had a plan to invade Ireland. Luckily for us, that never went ahead, but I thought it'd be really interesting to tell a story as though that invasion had gone ahead. So I'm going to read you the opening scene, and here we go. Prologue. Monday, 3rd of February 1941. Sacred Heart Convent, Cork City. Rachel felt a sense of dread as she looked down the avenue. The sky was blue and the air mild on this the first day of spring. Rachel, though, couldn't suppress a shiver as she watched the sleek black car that was coming up the tree-lined avenue from the main road. It was flying a swastika, the Nazi flag that flew in public buildings all over Ireland since the invasion the previous autumn, when the Germans had bloodily overwhelmed the Irish army and occupied the country within a week. Rachel watched the car intently, hoping that it would turn right at the fork in the avenue. Left would bring the vehicle towards the primary school, where she was a pupil, whereas right would mean its destination was the secondary school. On reaching the fork, the car turned left, and Rachel felt her stomach tightening. Don't panic, she told herself. It may have nothing to do with you. But she was the only girl in the school from a Jewish background, and the Germans had been rounding up Irish Jews and putting them into concentration camps. The Nazis often worked in tandem with the local Gardaí, but the Irish police were very much the junior partner, and all the power lay with the German secret police, the much feared Gestapo. Rachel turned away and walked quickly across the noisy schoolyard. It was break time, and the yard was full of uniformed girls, the younger ones excitedly playing chasing. From the corner of her eye, Rachel saw the car pulling to a halt. She glanced backwards and saw that two men were getting out of the vehicle. One was in a Garda uniform, but the other man was in civilian clothes and wore a long black coat despite the mild weather. Definitely Gestapo, thought Rachel, quickening her pace. She was tempted to run back to her classroom, grab her belongings and make for the rear exit of the grounds, and walked at a brisk pace towards the school's reception area. She entered the main hall, the smell of beeswax polish hanging in the air. There were other pupils about, and Rachel made sure not to catch the eye of Mrs. Rafferty, the middle-aged woman who ran the school office. If the policemen were looking for her, the last thing she wanted was Mrs. Rafferty to identify her. Rachel stopped and tried to think clearly. Was she getting herself into a state over nothing? Perhaps she should loiter in the hall, writing in a copybook while eavesdropping to hear the policeman's business at the reception desk. Rachel hesitated, then her instincts kicked in, and she decided to put as much distance as possible between herself and the police. If she took her belongings from the classroom and left the school and it was all a false alarm, so what? Better to get into trouble with Sister Carmel than end up in the clutches of the Gestapo. Without further delay, she turned into the corridor and made for her classroom. On reaching the door to the room, she swung it open and stepped inside. She collected her coat from the rack and was halfway to her desk when she found that she wasn't alone. "What are you doing?" said a voice. Rachel turned around startled. "Sister Carmel," she said, realizing that her teacher had been at the back of the classroom. "Why are you in here during break?" asked the nun. I came for my bag and coat." "Why?" Rachel looked at the nun, unsure what to tell her. Sister Carmel taught maths and religion and was regarded by the girls as strict but fair. But her manner wasn't sympathetic, and Rachel had never warmed to her. "You're trying my patience, Rachel," said the nun. "Sorry, sister, What?" "I'm frightened." "Frightened of what?" That the Nazis are coming for me. They've arrested all the Jews they could find in Cork. But your mother wasn't detected, so the chances of them coming for you, they're here. Two policemen are in reception," said Rachel, for once daring to interrupt her teacher mid-sentence. Part of her hoped that Sister Carmel would reprimand her for interrupting and tell her that the visit had nothing to do with her. Instead, the nun looked concerned. "Did you hear what they said to Mrs. Rafferty?" she said. "No, I was afraid to hang about in case I'd be spotted." "Right. Can I leave, sister, please? I'll come back tomorrow if it's all a big mistake." Sister Carmel looked uncertain, then she nodded. "All right." Just then they heard the sound of footsteps approaching along the corridor. Rachel looked at Sister Carmel, aware that the heavy tread wasn't being made by schoolgirls. "This could be them," she said. Sister Carmel wasn't frightened, but that seemed to take... Sister Carmel looked frightened, then seemed to make a snap decision. "Quickly, Rachel," she whispered, "into the broom cupboard." Rachel grabbed her school bag and ran along the room. She entered the tall cupboard and closed the door after her. She lowered her school bag and coat to the ground, then stood still, her heart pounding. No sooner had she settled herself than she heard a loud knock on the classroom door, followed by the sound of the door being opened. "May I help you?" she heard Sister Carmel ask in a strong, confident voice. Rachel had seen the fear in the nun's eyes, however, and she wondered if her teacher could keep her nerve long enough to outwit the police. The Gestapo had a reputation for brutality, and being a nun wouldn't save her if they took her in for interrogation. Rachel heard footsteps as the two men approached, and she peeped through a crack in the side of the door. "I'm sorry to disturb you, sister. I'm Sergeant Moran, and this is Criminal Commissar Volz." Rachel saw that Sergeant Moran had wavy ginger hair and an open, almost friendly expression. Criminal Commissar Volz was athletically built, with tightly cropped brown hair, and his demeanour seemed more threatening. "We want one of your pupils," said the German, in accented but fluent English. The man's tone was less courteous than the Irish policeman's, and Rachel felt her knees beginning to tremble. Could there be some reason why they might want to talk to another pupil? But even as she clung to the slim hope, her worst fears were founded by Volz. "We wish to see Rachel Clark," he said. "May I ask why?" "No, you may not," said Volz sharply. "Where is she?" Rachel's heart was pounding madly, and she found herself holding her breath. Sister Carmel was strict when it came to religious instruction, and she taught the girls that a lie is always sinful. Would she lie now to save a pupil? And even if she was prepared to commit a sin, would she risk bringing the wrath of the Gestapo down on the school for the sake of one girl? "I couldn't say exactly where she is," said Sister Carmel. Despite her own terror, Rachel felt a surge of admiration for her teacher. "You couldn't say, or you won't say," said Volz. "I couldn't say. She didn't come in today." "Really?" "Yes." "Why not?" "I don't know." "Is she usually a good attender?" "Yes." "Yet the one day we want to see her, she's not here." "Perhaps she knew you were coming." "How would she know that?" queried Sergeant Moran. "I've no way of telling, seeing as I don't know why you want her," retorted Sister Carmel. "We want her because she's Jewish," said Volz bluntly. Despite Rachel knowing that this had to be the reason for their visit, hearing it said aloud was chilling. Terrible stories had reached Ireland of what the Nazis were doing to Jews in Europe, and she felt herself trembling with fear. "There must be some mistake," said Sister Carmel. "Rachel Clark is a practicing Catholic. She'll be making her confirmation next month." "All that proves is how devious these Jews are," answered Volz. "Her mother was Jude Goldberg before she married Edward Clark and took his name. Be that as it may, Rachel Clark is a practicing Catholic, to mislead people. But when it comes to the law, the child of a Jewish mother is Jewish. That is the law. That hasn't been the way here in Ireland, has it, Sergeant?" "I'm sorry, sister. Things have changed. It's the law of the right," said Volz, "and anyone guilty of it, of obstructing it, faces severe punishment. So I ask you again, and think carefully before you answer. Where is Rachel Clark?" Rachel swallowed hard, pressing her knees together to try to stop the trembling. "I don't know Rachel's precise location," said Sister Carmel, "but you've an idea where she might be. Better if you cooperate," said Volz threateningly, "for you, the school, and the Sacred Heart Order." Rachel bit her lip. The school and the order were the core of Sister Carmel's being. Even if she was willing to risk her own life, would she put the school and the order at risk for one pupil? "All right then," the nun answered. "Where is she?" Sister Carmel paused, then spoke reluctantly. "I imagine she's in England." "England? She's family there. Probably the Clarks saw this coming and she fled. There are ferries every day. She could have left from Cork or Rosslare or even Dublin. Have you taken her parents into custody, Sergeant?" Before the Irish policeman could respond, Volz cut in. "We don't discuss police matters with civilians." "As you wish. Well, if there isn't anything else, gentlemen, I've classes to prepare for." There was a pause, and Rachel prayed that the policeman would leave. To her ears, Sister Carmel had sounded convincing, but there was no telling how the Gestapo officer would respond. "Right so. Thank you for your time, sister," said Sergeant Moran. "Very well," said Volz. "That is all. For now." And there we leave it. So if you'd like to read the rest of the story, you can get the book through the library or in a bookshop, or O'Brien Press have it available for download. And if you do read the story, I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening today, and goodbye.